Hi, in this video we'll be looking at how to find one endpoint if given the midpoint and the other endpoint of a line segment. Alright, so here we have a line segment AB. That means it has two endpoints. One endpoint is A and the other endpoint is B. And we know that its midpoint is 3, 4. The coordinates of the point A, so that's the first endpoint, is 1, 1, and we're being asked to find what are the coordinates of the other point, point B. All right, so it might be helpful to sketch this so we know what's going on here. So let us do a really rough sketch, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the y-axis. Okay. All right, so point A is 1, 1 right here, and point B is 3, 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So right here, let's draw that in. Right here. Right here. All right, so that's the midpoint. So we don't know exactly where the endpoint is, the other endpoint is yet, but we know it's going to be somewhere around here. All right, so there are two ways that we can do this. Actually, there are more than two ways that we can do this, but there are two ways that I'm going to show you how. If you like algebra, you want to watch this part. If you prefer to do it in another way, then I would like you to try scrolling to the middle of this video to see the other method. All right, so we know that the midpoint formula is midpoint equals x1 plus x2 over 2, that's the average of the x's, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2, the average of the y's. All right, so now we can plug into that formula, and we're going to do it piece by piece. So let's do the x's on the left side of the page and the y's on the right side of the page. So we know that the midpoint, let's call it midpoint sub x, the midpoint of x is equal to x1 plus x2 over 2. So we know the midpoint, the x value of the midpoint is 3. So we're going to plug 3 in for the midpoint x value. So we get that 3 is equal to, we know one x value is 1, but we don't know the other x value, that's what we're trying to find, over 2. And now we can solve for x2. In order to do that, we can go ahead and either cross multiply or multiply by our denominator 2. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. And we get that, let me switch to black here, we get that 6 is equal to 1 plus x. And finally, we're trying to isolate that x, so we have to subtract 1 from that side, and whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. And we get that x is equal to 5. Now, if we look at our diagram, that does make sense that our x coordinate will be somewhere around here. So we're good with that. Now we can go ahead and find the unknown y value. All right, so the midpoint of the y is equal to y1 plus y2 over 2. Now we know that the midpoint of the y values is this 4 right here. This is the whole midpoint, and the midpoint value for the y coordinate is 4. So we can go ahead and we can put that in, and we get 4 is equal to y1, which we know is also 1, so is equal to 1 plus y2 over 2. And we can go ahead and do what we did in the last side, on the left side, multiply by the denominator or cross multiply, and we get that 8 is equal to 1 plus y2. And we can isolate our y2, and that means we have to subtract 1 from both sides, and we get that y2, I'll put it right here where we have a bit of space, y2 is equal to 7. We can check to make sure that makes sense, and we should check to make sure that makes sense. So our coordinates are 5 for the y, 7 for the, 5 for the x, 7 for the y. And we get 5 comma 7. So let's go ahead and see where that would be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that totally makes sense. Let's draw that in. And that is our other endpoint. All right, so if that was a little bit too much algebra for your taste, not to worry. We're going to try the question again, and we're going to try it using a different method that only requires a bit of counting. Okay, so here is method number 2, and I'm going to call this the no algebra method. All right, so we're going to focus on the x's first, and then we're going to focus on the y's. So we're looking at a coordinate plane, but we can make it even easier by looking at a number line. So we're just going to focus on the number line for the x's. And so we know that our x value for our endpoint is 1, and we know that the midpoint x value is 3. So what we can do here is we can put 1 on a number line, then count till we get to 3, so that's 2, and then 3, so that's the endpoint for A, that's the midpoint. So these are just x values. Let's make sure we know that. That's just x values that we're focused on now. All right, so if we take a look, you'll notice that there are 2 spaces in between our endpoint and our midpoint. So we can keep going a bit and make 2 more spaces, and that will guide us to our other endpoint. And again, we're just focused on the x values. So now we know, oh, that should be a 5. So now we know that our other endpoint has an x coordinate of 5. And we can go ahead and do that for our y values as well. So I'm just going to draw a number line here that represents the y values. And we know that the y values have an endpoint of 1 and a midpoint value of 4. So if our y value here at the end is 1, we can go ahead and count to see how far we need to go to get to 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make that 4 big because that's our midpoint. And then now we can go the same amount. So here we went 3 spaces. Now we can go the same amount to the other direction to get to the other endpoint. So let's go ahead and do that. 5, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7. All right, and so that is the other endpoint. And again, this is just for the y values. But now we know that the x coordinate of the endpoint is 5 and the y coordinate of the other endpoint is 7. So that's just another method if you want to avoid the algebra.